Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is a prime example of someone trying to reinvent the wheel. The game tries so hard to replicate the awe and wonder of the breakout hit Breath of the Wild within the framework of traditional top-down Zelda that it loses focus on what truly matters. Echoes admittedly feels pretty fresh in the realm of top-down action adventuring, but it also introduces a number of new problems. On the positive side, it was a pleasant surprise to see large traditional temples and dungeon crawling return to the franchise after the previous mainline games drastically reduced these elements. And they also feel refreshingly different from previous games thanks to the new core mechanic that allows you to copy and paste various objects found across the map. Summoning these so-called echoes creates a whole bunch of new puzzle dynamics and new ways to think about solving them within the context of 2D Zelda games. However, the marketing tried to sell the idea that the system would create a big amount of different solutions due to your ever-growing inventory of echoes, which would reward you for thinking outside the box. But I didn't really feel that. Maybe I'm not creative enough, but I don't see any reason to stop these fire obstacles here with anything other than your standard rocks, or any reason why I would stop to use this bad stacking technique from the tutorial. Also, there are quite a few obstacles which do require one specific item, like the fan to remove those sand pillars. These echoes make for a puzzle design that really doesn't feel iterative of prior games, but ultimately you're dealing with this annoyingly gigantic menu for just a handful of different use cases, with tons of items doing the same thing with a different coat of paint or better stats. An actual profound problem is the combat, for which you can collect and summon all in-game enemies to fight for you. Unfortunately, your comrades are neither intelligent nor quick, making both small fights and many boss encounters feel either clunky or tedious. Nintendo must have known this, which is why you have a temporary special mode to activate traditional sword combat, but to me that isn't so much a solution to the problem, but rather an admission that the core concept is flawed. Since I said that they tried to reinvent the wheel, I have to address the exploration. Old Zelda games such as Link's Awakening or A Link to the Past were laser focused on tight level design and storytelling because of hardware limitations. Every screen on the map and every bit of world building had to be meaningful, so even a small adventure could feel grand. So when Echoes of Wisdom tried to apply the open world formula of the 3D games to this old concept, it fell flat. The map is much bigger than in prior games of this kind, but it just isn't as interesting to explore. For one, there's much more filler content, in particular when it comes to side questing. Multiple fetch quests feel straight out of Breath of the Wild, but not in a good way, because they often don't provide any meaningful gameplay challenge beyond collecting stuff and don't tell any interesting stories. There's even your little side missions in which you do nothing but run from GPS point to GPS point, something that was absent in older games because they didn't need these shallow distractions to make the campaigns worthwhile. Also, a 2D plane with limited movement just isn't that interesting to explore if it's too big, and the copy mechanics don't really make traversal any more interesting, so exploration can become exhausting. While you can find some meaningful treasures on the way, such as equipment with unique abilities, the majority of your findings are now the same cooking materials as in Breath of the Wild. However, combining them into potions is tedious, and the game is rarely challenging enough to require this additional system with its various buff combinations. It could have been meaningful to collect strong summons before the main quest leads you to some of the bigger bosses, but that brings us back to the not so exciting combat, which deflates this kind of reward. Not to mention that the supposed openness of the map doesn't feel nearly as groundbreaking as in prior 3D Zelda games, ignoring the fact that there is quite a bit of gating. For example, you can activate these two flames just like the NPC wants you to, but it won't actually do anything until your little Ubisoft quest book tells you to. While it is possible to quote-unquote break into the late game areas early on, this concept of map freedom isn't that mind-blowing when it's applied to a flat, toy-like miniature map, which inherently doesn't have the same sense of wonder as its big brother. I didn't love this art direction in the Link's Awakening remake because I prefer pixels, but at least it still made sense for its tight diorama-like campaign, unlike Echoes of Wisdom. Again, as a puzzle game, it succeeds in my opinion, as long as you aren't interrupted by any combat. The sound design is also of high quality, and the game features a big amount of nostalgic throwbacks. However, none of this can distract from the core problems created by its new systems in both combat and exploration. They took a concept that arguably peaked on past consoles and tried to apply innovations from other games that simply don't enhance this particular game design. Echoes didn't destroy the essence of Zelda or anything like that, because all in all it's still an interesting game with many qualities. But it waters down a perfectly fine formula just for the sake of being different and trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice.